Hey guys, it's Taya, and today I'm gonna read some more Ruby the Red Fairy because I love reading. And there actually is a secret chapter which is in Amber the Orange Fairy, and it's called A Very Unusual Shell, where they find Amber the Orange Fairy, I think. Okay, let's get started. Of course we'll search for your sisters, Kirsty said quickly. Won't we, Rachel? Rachel nodded. Oh, thank you, Ruby said happily. But we're only here for a week, Rachel said. Will that be long enough? We must get started right away. Said Ruby. First, I must take you to Fairyland to meet our king and queen. They will be very pleased to know that you are going to help me find my sisters. Rachel and Kirsty stared at Ruby. You're taking us to Fairyland? Kirsty gasped. She could hardly believe her ears, nor could Rachel. But how will we get there? Rachel wanted to know. We'll fly there, Ruby replied. But we can't fly. Rachel pointed out. Ruby smiled. She whirled up into the air and flew over the girls' heads. Then she swirled her wand above them. Magic fairy dust fluttered down. Rachel and Kirsty began to feel a bit strange. Were the trees getting bigger or were they getting smaller? They were getting smaller. Smaller and smaller and smaller until they were the same size as Ruby. I'm tiny, Rachel laughed. She was so small the flowers around seemed like trees. Kirsty twisted round to look at her back. She had wings, shiny and delicate wings. She had wings and she had wings, shiny and delicate as a butterfly's. Ruby beamed at them. Now you can fly, she said. Let's go. Rachel twitched her shoulders, her wings fluttered, and she felt herself rise up into the air. She felt quite wobbly at first. It was very odd. Help! Kirsty yelled as she shot up into the air. I'm not very good at this. Come on, said Ruby, taking their hands. She led them up out of the glade. Rachel looked down on Rainspell Island. She could see the cottages next to the beach and the harbour now. I have no clue what a harbour is, but anyways, let's get back to it. Where is Fairyland, Ruby? Kirsty asked. They were flying higher and higher up into the clouds. It's so far away that no mortal could ever find it, Ruby said. They flew on through the cloud. They flew on through the clouds for a long, long time, but at last Ruby turned to them and smiled. We're here, she said. As they flew down from the clouds, Kirsty and Rachel saw places they recognized from the pond picture. The palace pool, hillsides with their toadstool houses, the river and flowers, but there were no bright colours. Now, because of Jack Frost's spell, everything was a drab shade of grey. Even the air felt cold and damp. A few fairies walked miserably across the hillside. Their wings hung limply down their backs. No one could be bothered to fly. Suddenly, one of the fairies looked up into the sky. "Look!" she shouted. "It's Ruby. She's come back." At once, the fairies flew up towards Ruby, Kirsty, and Rachel. They circled around them, looking much happier and asking lots of questions. "Have you come from Rainbow Island, Ruby? Where are the other rainbow fairies? Who are your friends? First, we must see the king and queen. Then I will tell you everything." Ruby promised. I feel like that's a pinky promise. King Oberon and Queen Titania were seated on their thrones. Their palace was as grey and gloomy as everywhere else in Fairyland, but they smiled warmly when Ruby arrived with Rachel and Kirsty. "Welcome back, Ruby," the Queen said. "We have missed you. Your Majesties, I have found 2 mortals who believe in magic," Ruby announced. "These are my friends, Kirsty and Rachel." Quickly, Ruby explained what had happened to the other rainbow fairies. She told everyone how Rachel and Kirsty had rescued her. "You have our thanks," the king told them. "Our rainbow fairies are very special to us." "And will you help us to find Ruby's rainbow sisters?" the queen asked. "Yes, we will," Kirsty said. "But how will we know where to look?" Rachel wanted to know. "The trick is not to look too hard," said Queen Titania. "Don't worry, as you enjoy the rest of your holiday, as you enjoy the rest of your holiday," finally got it correct, that part, "the magic you need to find each rainbow fairy will find you. Just wait and see." King Oberon rubbed his beard thoughtfully. "You have 6 days of your holiday left and 6 fairies to find," he said. "A fairy each day. That's a lot of fairy finding. You need some special help." He nodded. At once his footman, a plump frog in a buttoned-up jacket, Frog, hopped over to Rachel and Kirsty and handed them each a tiny silver bag. The bags contained magic tools, the queen told them. "Don't look inside them yet. Open them when you only really need to, and you will find something to help you," she smiled at Kirsty and Rachel. "Look!" shouted another frog footman. Ruby is beginning to fade." Rachel and Kirsty looked at Ruby in horror. The fairy was growing paler before their eyes. Her lovely dress was no longer red but pink. Her golden hair was turning white. "Jack Frost's magic is still at work," said the king, looking worried. "We can undo his spell until the rainbow fairies are all together again." "Quickly, Ruby," urged the queen. "You must return to Rainbow Spell Islands at once." Ruby, Kirsty and Rachel rose into the air, their wings fluttering. "Don't worry," Kirsty called as they flew high. We'll be back soon with all the rainbow fairies very soon." "Good luck," called the king and queen. Rachel and Kirsty watched Ruby worriedly as they flew off, but as they got further away from Fairyland, Ruby's colour began to return. Soon she was bright and sparkling again. They reached Rainbow at last. Ruby led Rachel and Kirsty to the clearing in the wood, and they landed next to the old black pot. Then Ruby scattered the fairy dust all over Rachel and Kirsty. There was a puff of glittering red smoke, and the 2 girls shot up to their normal size again. Rachel wiggled her shoulders. Yes, her wings had gone. "Oh, I really loved being a fairy," Kirsty said. They watched Ruby sprinkle her magic dust all over the old black pot. What are you doing? Rachel asked. Jack's frost magic means I can't help you look at my sisters, Ruby replied sadly, so I'll wait for you here in the pot at the end of the rainbow. Suddenly the pot began to move. It rolled across the grass and stopped under the weeping willow tree. The tree branches hung right down to the ground. The pot will be hidden under the tree, Ruby explained. I'll be safe there. I'd better start looking for the other rainbow fairies, Rachel said to Kirsty. Where shall we start? Ruby shook her head. Remember what the Queen said, she told them. The magic will come to you. She flew over and sat on the edge of the pot. Then she pushed aside one of the willow branches and waved at Rachel and Kirsty goodbye and good luck. We'll be back soon, Ruby, Kirsty promised. We're going to find all your rainbow sisters, Rachel said firmly. Just you wait and see. Ruby is safely hidden in the pot at the end of the rainbow. Now Rachel and Kirsty must find Amber the Orange Fairy. Hope you all enjoyed. Now this is also going to be an Amber the Orange Fairy, which I'm also going to read. And I'm just going to be reading the same thing. Okay? But please don't judge me. Bye-bye.